I didn't hear you. I said, hello everyone. Weird. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Oh, right. This is pre-recorded. Of course I can't hear you, but you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Well, my name is April, and today I'm going to read to you a story that I wrote, and it's about a moose and his sidekick, the goose.
Moose on the Loose, the Fernie Art Station. Mikey and Grace Hit the Town by April Montague, and illustrations done by Tira Columbine. A moose named Mikey was mischievous as can be. His friend Grace the goose was always around to see. Now in the forest, the two were known for getting into a bind. Neither would ever leave the other behind. One day, Mikey smelled a smell his nose had not smelled before, a sweet aroma coming from a town a few meters down. Mikey said to Grace, "Let's dress up and get something tasty. Let's grab the clothes left near the old bus. No one will recognize us," replied Grace. Mikey found a toque for his head and for each antler a mitt, a jacket he wore like saddle, and pants that fit. Grace found an orange scarf, matching earmuffs, and 2 big boots. "These fit me great," stated Grace. "We will fool the human." It was quite the sight to see for little JJ when a moose and a goose walked down the street. No one seemed to notice. The adults were too busy looking at their phones. Mikey and Grace followed the smell to a little cafe. No one was looking at them. They thought their plan was going great. Then Grace noticed out of the corner of her eye that a little girl named Emma was staring at her, eyes wide. Grace pretended not to notice and poked her big friend. "We got trouble," said Grace. "Yes, how will we get in?" replied Mikey. Emma squeezed past with excitement on her face, opened the door, and waved them in. Now it didn't take long for the trouble to begin. Lisa the barista knew something wasn't quite right. A 7-foot-tall, 1,000-pound hunter with 4 hooves was staring into her eyes. The barista stood staring at Mikey, and he started to panic. He was caught, and there was no mistaking the barista's shock. He turned to flee and knocked all the sweets off the counter. He stepped on Grace's toe, and she hung. Meanwhile, Joe, the conservation officer, was at a table in the cafe enjoying his cup when he thought he heard a goose and then looked up. The cafe was in a frenzy, muffins and cookies all over the place. In the middle of the room, Joe couldn't believe his eyes. A moose and a goose in disguise? In the commotion, Grace saw Joe, poked Mikey and said, "Uh-oh, we better go." The two fled the cafe. While people were running away, JJ was still on the main street when the commotion appeared. A moose and a goose on the loose? People screaming and running in every direction. "Let's get out of town," yelled Grace. "It's this way," replied Mikey. The wrens outside the cafe saw the whole thing. News spread fast in the forest that day. Mikey and Grace have never lived this down. The tale of the moose on the loose and his sidekick the goose is still the best around.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Hope that story was okay for everybody. Nobody fell asleep, did they? Because that would be terrible. That means my story isn't that exciting. But even if you did, that's okay. I won't tell. So now I'm going to share with you how I write a story, and you are all going to write your own story today. Now the first thing that I do is decide what my story is going to be about. And that's the most important thing. And you can pick anything you want. And the way to do this sometimes, the best way, and this is my little trick, is I close my eyes and I take a deep breath. Can everybody close their eyes and take a deep breath? You know how to do it, I'm sure you do. Close your eyes, no peeking. Now, what's the very first thing that comes to mind? And that is what I would write my story about. Now, the next step is to take your nice, cool yellow book that we've given to you, and you can go on in there, and you've got lines on your page, and you can start to write your story. Now, here's the trick. I just write. Doesn't matter if it's 5 pages or 10, I just write. I don't worry about the spelling mistakes, and I don't worry about the punctuation. You can go back and fix that after you've written it. And I just write the first things that come to my mind, and I just let it flow on paper. Now, if you had a little bit of trouble coming up with an idea, we sent you this nice little page with pictures on it. Now, this might get you thinking. This moose, his name is George, and maybe he goes out for a walk and gets into trouble. I don't know. Or maybe this girl has seen a ghost. It's totally up to you. That's the lovely thing about writing a story, is that you get to decide what the character does. It could be funny, it could be silly even, and it could even be a little bit stinky. It's totally up to you. Now, the teachers are going to give you some time now to write, and I'm going to go off and write my story about a cookie. I can't wait to see what your stories are about, and I can't wait to share mine with you. Talk to you soon.
All right, kids, welcome back. I have written my story, and it's here, and I'm going to read it to you in just a minute, but now I'm going to make pictures. So I've gone and I've fixed all my spelling mistakes and my punctuation, except for right here. I forgot that. So now, Mr. Chips is going to be a cookie, and I've taken this idea from our page, and I'm going to cut out the cookie now. And I'm going to add it to my story. Now, Mr. Chips isn't just any cookie. He is going to have legs. And he's going to have hands. And of course, he's going to have some eyes. Can't really see it on this page, but that's okay. You'll be able to see them on the next page. And then you go ahead and you draw all the pictures for your story now. Okay, everybody. Now I'm going to read to you the new story that I've written. All right, is everybody ready? Mr. Chips looks up at the moon. Mr. Chips tries a balloon. Mr. Chips doesn't move. Mr. Chips tries 2 balloons. Mr. Chips doesn't move. Mr. Chips meets a raccoon. Mr. Chips gives the raccoon the balloons. Mr. Chips finds a rocket. Mr. Chips' socks fly off him. Mr. Chips lands on the moon. Mr. Chips is so enthused. The end.
All right, everybody, that's a wrap. I can't wait to read all of your stories, and I hope you had fun today with me. I certainly had so much fun. All right, until next time.